So far in our movie plot series, we've travelled all over the world, from Austria to New York to the Lake District. And now we're paying a visit to the home of movie making, Hollywood. Yes, this is Hollywood, where hundreds of movies are made, stars come to visit, and cinema history is created. But it's not Hollywood, USA. This is Hollywood, County Wicklow, Irish style. And okay, I might be biased as it's my home turf, but while it doesn't have the glitz and the glamour, you can see why it's a scene stealer. It's been a firm favourite with countless Hollywood producers for many years. In fact, you've probably seen it on screen in loads of movies, but never realised it. One of the most Scottish movies ever made was the Oscar-winning Braveheart. It was the story of the Scots battle to overthrow the English. Now, most people, of course, would feel that it was filmed in Scotland, but actually 70% of it was filmed right here in Ireland.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Some scenes were shot here at Capure in the heart of the Wicklow National Park. Now it's a holiday resort, but 10 years ago it was untouched by modern life. So there you were one day, Tim. You were tending your garden, you were out mowing the lawn, and a helicopter appeared from the sky, landed here. Who was in it?
Mel Gibson, the great Mel Gibson.
What was he doing in County Wicklow, the Garden of Ireland?
To film, or to pick a location for the filming of Braveheart, because this part of Wicklow looked like what Scotland was in the 13th century. I must say people had great respect, tremendous respect for Mel, because he was a person an actor and a producer that was a perfectionist. It amazed me. It was at night, it was in September, it was cold, it was misty, and I noticed that at least he went back and over to the cottage here, which was probably about 50 yards distance, about 50 times, and that horse would jump off, look, see, not satisfied, back again, and he did it himself, and I must say the skirt was very short and it must have been very cold.
The battle scenes in Braveheart make powerful and realistic viewing and are some of the most acclaimed in cinematic history. Mel used members of the Irish Army Reservists, nearly 2,000 of them in some shots. Apparently, some of the scenes are far more realistic than you might imagine, with rival companies actually using the occasion to get scrapping. But County Wicklow hasn't just been a stand-in for 13th century Scotland, it's also been a replacement for 19th century France.
I bid you good afternoon, sir. I'm here to purchase your lovely home.
And this is the view that convinced the makers of the Count of Montecristo to set one of the most important scenes in the movie right here. The film was based on the book by Alexander Dumas and was the 20th version to be made. However, the incredible cinematography ensured it's also one of the best, and the scenes filmed here are classed as some of the most dramatic. Harscourt is owned by Sarah Slazenger's family, and she's delighted to share it with movie makers. One of the most memorable scenes shot here was for the Count of Montecristo, where all these terraces were lit up by an amazing amount of lanterns.
It was absolutely extraordinary, and I don't think the gardens ever looked as well as they did in that movie. It was just spectacular because it was all lit up. And it really did allow you to imagine what it must have been like here 100 or 200 years ago.
It's been amazing for the drama of that moment when the Count decides to reveal himself by descending in a hot air balloon in the evening.
That has to be the most dramatic moment of the whole thing. And of course, it wasn't a real balloon, it was actually a CGI balloon, but they did have a basket suspended from a crane, and they lowered the basket down after the acrobats had come out of the basket beforehand, and then he steps out, and it was just extraordinary.
Greetings.
Watching the movie, I thought no better garden was ever suited to fireworks, was it?
Yes, it is, because it's a natural amphitheatre and it just means that you get such a terrific effect with the fireworks up in the sky and the gardens up below.
Powerscourt has been in Sarah's family for years and she spent her childhood here. All these magnificent grounds must have been the most incredible play area for children.
Absolutely, and you know the terraces that you see behind us, that great place for rolling down them.
Rolling down the terraces, well, that sounds like a very childish thing to do. Years ago, with no heavy machinery around, building these terraces was no mean feat. It took 100 men working every day for 12 years to complete them. The garden designer was very interesting because he'd start each day with a full bottle of claret and he'd be wheeled around from site to site around this 45 acres. And when the claret was finished, he was finished in every way. Wicklow is blessed with stunning locations, and another historic home is Kilruddery, just down the road. Over the last few decades, Kilruddery has appeared in dozens of movies. The place is steeped in history. Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman are just some of the stars to have visited here. But the celebrity I'm interested in is a true legend. And yes, you've guessed it, far from coming home, those hills she's racing through aren't Yorkshire or Scotland, but County Wicklow.
Oh, come here, will ya? Stop her!
And it's down these steps that Lassie makes her bid for freedom. The start of a journey that would take her hundreds of miles back to her owner. Woof! The reason filmmakers choose this location is the stunning gardens and house that are still in the same form as when they were created hundreds of years ago.
But they did come here. They brought no less than 3 lassies, I think, from America, and they had them jumping through the granite balustrades there, and it was good fun.
We know actors are pampered. Were the dogs pampered? Did they have to be got ready every morning for?
They had a huge van which they insisted on parking not with the film crew, but they had to be on their own in the residence yard just round the corner there. And the grooming parlour was something else. They opened the van doors and they had these sort of gold cages and grooming parlours and everything else, and sort of practically velvet cushions. And they'd come all the way from the States and they brought their own unit.
You know, it's been a real privilege to travel to different places around the world and to visit extraordinarily and beautiful scenes that directors and producers have chosen to make pictures. It's been brilliant. But to come back and stand and look at my own backyard makes me think there's no place like home.